So anyways, this is the very first Beluga journalism update. My name is Mark. The intention for these videos, I think, since we're all trapped inside, is to just kind of give a recap of what I've been up to this week and sort of let me take you on a journey through your own community via journalism and my efforts. So yeah, hopefully we can all together explore some of these important topics and gain a better understanding of the world around us. I'll start by recapping some of the work that I've been doing, posting daily photos of the COVID-19 infection rates from the government's website. For me, it's been kind of an interesting exercise just to figure out and visually see how much this is becoming a bigger and bigger problem within our country and our community. I think when I did my first post, I think somewhere around last Wednesday, the infection numbers in Canada total were at about 700. And just before I came on camera here, I looked, and now we're at 2,900. So in just under a week, it's been a pretty significant growth in infections of the coronavirus. So it's definitely a story that's on the front of everyone's mind. And just seeing the numbers there really makes it hit home, at least for me and possibly even for you. Also, last week, I covered a couple of stories for the Calgary Herald. I'm doing a practicum there. The very first one was about a Calgary woman who was working as an au pair in Barcelona. She was significant because on March 14th, right before things were getting, you would say real here, she made a post that ended up going viral. And the post was essentially warning Canadians of the problems that Spain was experiencing with the coronavirus. She ended up contracting the virus herself, and it was written from isolation, and it was written in such a way that it was an interesting story because it offered Canadians and people like myself a very grim view of the future if we didn't smarten up and start to self-isolate. And you can see now that Spain is indeed one of the hardest hit countries from COVID-19. And, at this point, I think Canadians are starting to get the message a little better than they did at that time. So it was an interesting story to work on from that perspective. It was also interesting to talk to this young woman and at least get a good story out of it. She had contracted the virus and was starting to feel better from it. And so it kind of offers a measure of hope for us. And it also really also acknowledged some of the interesting travel predicaments that the coronavirus is posing for Canadian travelers who have already gotten the virus. There doesn't seem to be any protocols. This young woman was really unsure whether she'd even be able to fly home at this point after having, been previously infected. So a lot of really interesting stories and sort of different aspects that were brought up by this story. So it was a fun one to work on. And then the second story I worked on last week was of particular interest to me because I'm still technically a post-secondary student. This story was on how universities and students are adapting to the virtual classroom measures that all of the post-secondary institutions have invoked as a result of the orders to self-isolate. And for me that was an interesting story because I am a student. It was also interesting just to see all of the lessons that post-secondary institutions learned from the 2013 floods, the 2016 Fort McMurray wildfire. These were challenging situations, and they have honed their emergency responses based on what they learned from those disasters. And it also brought up some things that are different this time as well. One of the representatives of MRU was saying that in those past disasters, people were able to take exams at a later date. And at this point, it seems like peak infection is going to be well into the future. And so isolation measures will likely need to be in place for a very long time, which makes students gathering in one place to write an exam a lot more difficult. So it was also interesting to see some of the problems that the COVID-19 emergency has created for universities. And, at this point, they still haven't quite figured out. So it was interesting to learn about all that and explore those issues. Other than that, that's all I've been working on this week. If you're interested in finding out more, my Instagram handle is Mark Wiseman Journalist. Feel free to follow me there, and working on some good stuff this week. So that's this week's update. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next week.